All right, everybody, thank you. Well, Happy New Year to all. Call the meeting of the advisory committee for the Jefferson County 109 board to order. We will skip the approval of the October 6th minutes. And again, welcome to all. And we'll move right into old business. And the first order of business is the 5-year solid waste management plan passage and overview.
Okay, I was just going to update everybody. I know that everybody is familiar with the plan. We discussed it a little bit over the last year and so many months, so I won't belabor that. But at the public hearing, comment period was held. The public hearing was held on December 2nd. The board voted 6-1 to pass the plan on December 8th, and the plan has been forwarded to the state for its ultimate approval. There was a few minor changes that was incorporated due to public comments. Those were related specifically to the study of the unincorporated solid waste collection system to make it more inclusive to ensuring that the study looked at all sides, the bad part about potentially contracting it as well as the good. So I thought that was a good change because, you know, we want to look at the whole thing. We want to be straightforward in our look. We need to see what's going on out there. So that was really the biggest change there. And so it ended up passing. Now, I did want to come back and let's see if I get the right screen here. Okay.
Hey, Pete,
Yes, sir.
which board member voted no and why?
The vote was no, and that was with Bob Lee with the National Waste and Recycling Association. I think that it came down to that particular item. I don't know that he went into detail as to why he voted that way. I'm only making, and maybe I shouldn't make assumptions, but he did argue in his comments that it was one of the biggest concerns for the NWRA. So that's where it was. So,
And a contrarian.
well, okay. I did want to kind of take a little bit of a look at the major themes in what we ended up working on and approving. And, you know, I think Carl brought up something to me a long time ago. And that was we needed to get a focus of 3 to 4 things that we can really kind of hone in on and do a good job of. And I think keeping with that theme, I came and I pulled out 4 of the major things from the plan that I think that the committee kind of needs to work on. Now, of course, we haven't met with the board since the approval, but just getting it out here in front of the committee. The first one was the study to understand the cost and service levels in unincorporated and contracted areas. I think that that is one that would require us to do an RFP or decide how we want to go about that. And I believe that needs to be through a discussion, particularly with this committee, to make sure that all sides are heard. And that probably the most important part is that we get a good RFP that is going to give us what we need. And through that process, one that creates trust and that the information that we receive is going to be good and usable. I think that that's probably the biggest, most important parts to that item. The next one is the marketing to increase public knowledge of litter and illegal dumping prevention programs, proper management of all types of solid waste. And probably one of the bigger ones is improving the public perception about waste management, in particular about recovery of solid waste, recycling and such, because I think that anybody that's worked in industry long enough or been around this long enough and listened to calls of people calling in and or making comments on social media is that the stuff goes to the landfill anyway. And, I think that we could go a long way towards improving that public perception. And also, we have to do a better job of litter and cleanliness, public education. And we've already started in this regard. The board last year did approve $100,000 for the marketing company, in which Field Trip, who did the city's COVID outreach and education, was awarded the bid. With the help of this committee and members of this committee that dedicated the time to go through that process. We're in that. Somebody say something.
A question, Pete?
Yes.
Quick question. When you say public perception about waste management, do you mean public perception about OLRDF, or is that just a generic term or used?
Generic term.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, we're already a part of that and working on that. And hopefully we're going to have the litter side of this start to come out sometime in March. Correct me if I'm wrong, Karen, but sometime in March or April would be that part of it, followed after that by the rest of the program. We've done a lot of work and we've had some good stuff. I think we've shared some of that with you guys. If not, we soon will be. And also, we put $25,000 of litter abatement grant funds towards this education and marketing program as well. So that's one that we've already got a head start on with the help of this committee. The next one was development and expansion of technical assistance and education programs to businesses, citizens, community groups, and other agencies. I think that we heard loud and clear, and honestly, we hear it in everything that we do, that outreach and education is so important. And we know this. And so we have to grow it. And we got a great education team. They do really good work, but we need to be able to amplify that and expand upon that. And when we say technical assistance, currently, if somebody calls us, we will go out and work with a company however we can to help them. But we don't have a like best management practices or toolkits based upon the different industries. We would love to have, an example of that is we're working with the apartment association to work to build that and understand the complexities of multifamily unit recycling. And so we're working on that. And we want to be able to do that in the construction and demolition sector. We want to be able to do that in the self-haul sector, the residential sector, and just build that out. But, we've already asked for an additional educator and, it's been approved by the board, as well as making Karen a little bit higher level to start to take on these additional responsibilities. So that is something that we feel like that this group is uniquely positioned to be able to help us expand that education and outreach. So that's a major one. And then the last one of the big four for me is expanding end-use markets for construction and demolition materials so that they can be recovered, reused, and recycled. And part of that, we started to work on shingles, and we got so far into it, and we was working with the Asphalt Association of Kentucky. We took a tour out there to understand the issues with shingles to be put into asphalt. We understand, I think, the barriers, but just with the bandwidth that we have, it's a difficult thing for us to do. And we want to do that same thing, not just with shingles, but we also want to expand with gypsum and drywall and concrete and asphalt and anything construction and demolition. So that could also be from the construction side to the demolition side that we want to look at. So, that's for us to be able to do that. I think that we need some expertise, and the plan was calling for us to potentially look to see if we can't hire that expertise in however we want to, a consultant or a supportive staff that can do that. So that is another area that we want to get into, construction and demolition, to be able to recover more of that, particularly with the fact that Volt Avenue as a facility that was accepting a lot of C&D under beneficial use is not necessarily going to be able to do it in that same way. So we're going to have a lot of that material coming back out with no home. So it's really important for us to be looking at this so that our diversion rate doesn't take a hit. So those are the four major things. And what we need to decide is to look at what we have been doing over the past several years with the 10-year study, not necessarily throwing those things out, but maybe looking at how we can go ahead and start working on these, how it relates to what we have been doing, and coming up with a plan, maybe subdividing committees again to reorganize so that we can focus on these things the way we need to be and in a more efficient way. But that's basically what we do. Now, there's other things in the 5-year plan that staff will be working on independent of this group that doesn't necessarily fit what this group does. So we would be working with other metro agencies in that regard. But that's where we're at with the 5-year plan. I can't tell you all how much. I already told you guys how much we appreciate all the work that everybody has put into it. But now it's time to get to work and make it to where it's not something that sits on the shelf.
Pete, I've got a friend of mine in the recycling industry that's doing the same thing. He's changed the recycling industry. We took scrap out of the word because people think that's wrong. He has he's got a whole film crew that he films steel mills and everything, showing that what he doesn't just say that scrap is made from something. He'll take a piece of aluminum and say this will go to a side of a truck. I will send you his name. I'll send him your name, and you call him. He'll be glad to talk to you. He can tell you who to get. Israel hired some yahoo for $300,000, and our guy's doing it for free. So I'll send you his name, and he will guide you. He wants to help, not so much in what we're doing, but I mean, it's the same exact thing, just mainly with ferrous, non-ferrous paper, and he does plastic. So I'll send you his name tonight, and I'll figure out how for you to get on. He's basically on Facebook. I'll send all his name and see if you can see he's every day got some kind of thing about recycling, turning something into a new product. Like he had one the other day, a cast iron pan. He said, this comes from cast iron. And then he had another one that said, this comes from a piece from a recycled washing machine. It was just a steel pan. So I'll send you all this stuff to all the members, and you can call him.
That sounds great. We'll make that initial contact, and potentially, do you think that he would be amenable to coming in and giving the committee and the board a little presentation?
Absolutely. He's got his own plane. He'll come see us.
Okay, that's awesome.
He flies all over the country. He sells Sierra balers too. So he's in the scrap business, he's in the demolition business, and he's in the machinery business. He sells good balers and shears. So I will call him and give him your name, and you call him Drake. He's a good guy.
Sounds great. Thank you, Bruce.
Okay.
Anybody else on where we're at with the 5-year plan?
No, I would agree. I think that we have a couple starting points that we should continue to exploit. One primarily being education. We already have, the position approved. We need to try to move forward with that. Technical assistance, I think, is a good topic. And use market for construction demo, obviously, with the closure of both transfer state or both landfill or whatever you want to call it, but the beneficial reuse site, it was Boat Avenue. It's going to be important to continue to capture that construction demo debris as much as possible. And the study is something that we need, I think, to discuss in committee a bit further. I don't want it to be a stumbling block and slow us down to where we cannot get other items implemented and basically continue the momentum of those subjects where we can start getting more education out to people.
Sounds good. Let's see, Greg Zaradnik has joined the meeting. That does give us a quorum, I believe.
Yes.
And that got the right count now.
Well, with that, we can go ahead and back up. Have the committee members had the opportunity to review the minutes of the October 6th, 2022 meeting?
Bruce, I was in surgery that day, so I missed the meeting, so I'm not eligible to vote.
All right. Well, we still have 8 members. One who's recusing himself because he wasn't in the meeting. And we still have 7 voting members. Pete, can we go through with a vote with 1 recusal, or do we need 8 voting members?
I believe that the bylaws state that we have a quorum of 8 so that we can move forward. Basically, Brian still has a vote. He's just abstaining.
With that said, do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the October 6th, 2022 meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Do I have a second?
Yes, second, Carl.
Technically, Carl, you're a board member.
Appreciate the second, Carl, but I need it from the advisory member.
I'll move
Second.
second.
All right, thank you.
Sandra.
Or thank you, Pat and Sandra. So we have multiple seconds. Any additional discussion needed? Hearing none, do we have a vote? Those in favor of approving the minutes, raise your hand, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you very much.
Greg, if I could, Bruce, for a second, Greg, if you can get your camera to operate.
I would love to. If you could help me with that later, I would love it. I've had trouble for the last 2 days and I can't figure it out. I've been trying and I'm asking people, so I don't know. The light's on. It might be a hardware issue, so I will try later, but right now that's all I can do. Sorry.
I understand.
Okay.
With that said, Greg, did you vote yay or nay?
Yeah, I voted yay. That's why I raised my hand electronically.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Just make sure we have clarification there.
good.
All right, next order of business is the update about the partnership with the Louisville Apartment Association.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and start on that one. I'm sure Pete will chime in too, and maybe some other members that have been part of this. But I looked back and I think we've been meeting with the Louisville Apartment Association since June. They had created, I don't know if it was already in place when we joined, but a green committee. So when discussions started happening about recycling at multifamily properties, they got interested, and it actually ended up being, I believe, a great partnership. And we have been meeting with JD Carey, who I know has been on these calls before. Brian Slade has been a part of this, and a few of their property managers and property owners that are a part of the Louisville Apartment Association have come together, and we've had a lot of different discussions. We've visited properties and gotten some kind of hands-on learning about what goes on with recycling at apartments and actually various, as you know, there's different levels of size for apartments. So some buildings have a lot of apartments. We visited Bradford Mills Apartments, and they're, you know, in where each, I don't even know how many properties there were. I can't remember, but it's a large old building. It was really neat to see. And then they have a dumpster outside for recycling and garbage. So they already recycle. So they were kind of a good kind of understand maybe some struggles they have or whatnot. And then another property we visited, Miss Caroline Schneider owns with her husband a couple some fourplexes. And so we were able to visit them. So that's a very small scale compared to the Bradford Mills apartment. So even just the couple of examples that we were able to visit were extreme differences. And I think it's been really good to hear concerns and ideas from, you know, from across the board there. So, so it's been a great partnership. We decided, I'm trying to think if there's any, I do have a draft of a toolkit. So basically, what over the different months, we decided to draft a multifamily recycling toolkit that could be not just a brochure type of thing, but of course it would also be on our website, would link to different aspects of it. And so far we have this kind of it's not real pretty, I should say. I like for things to look visually appealing, and it does not yet. But I'm going to share so you can at least see. This is going to be it. All right. So so this is kind of what we've started with here. We not only are we talking about recycling at multifamily properties, but also just appropriate solid waste management. And there's a lot to learn on both sides, we're finding, you know, from the property owner side, we offered a tour of West Rock, and we've had lots of discussions. So they're learning more about the waste industry and recycling and, you know, dumping issues. They're kind of learning more about processes that we know about, and then vice versa. We're learning about how the challenges that they have. So again, a really good partnership here. So a bit of an intro, trying to sell this as the fact that this would be an amenity to offer at a apartment, and then kind of going through the different steps. And some of this isn't completely built out, and that's our next steps is for me, I'm going to kind of draft up some of the tools that go along with this. So of course, understanding your waste stream is critical. And so we do have a worksheet on here that is kind of a, you know, hand to paper, writing down how many times you know, how big is your dumpsters, how many times is it emptied, to calculate how much waste you're generating. Of course, what we really want is something more digital because it's so much easier. But this is a start. And step 2, we wanted kind of more at the beginning of this process to understand ways to reduce waste and prevent illegal dumping too. So bulky waste can be a major problem. So that's kind of the tips here. Consider recycling, kind of understand what you could change with your waste generation. And hopefully if you right size your garbage, then maybe you'd have some leftover funds to help offset the cost of adding recycling. And then, of course, if you're going to recycle, develop a convenient system for that. And here's some tips. And then the idea of having a DIY sign maker on the website, that's the kind of stuff we don't really have that yet. Other cities have offered that. The Recycling Partnership offers things like that. So, so that's part of the next actions that I'll take is to figure out, get some drafting of some of these other tools. And then going through informing and engaging your residents and staff. And again, more tips, including some templates of things, like if you're going to have a letter or an email sent, we can provide all of these things in a format that you just kind of plug in your info and you're ready to go. So, so we think, you know, as a resident who has the recycling available, you want to make that behavior as easy as possible. You know, that they can hardly mess it up, you know, putting the containers in the right place and things like that. But it's the same way for offering this for property owners. We want to give them everything they need so that there's no barrier of it, you know, takes a lot of time and effort. And I mean, there's obviously going to be some time and effort, but we want to eliminate as much as that as possible so that it's kind of just already done for you. You just use what you need from our website. So of course, participation is really important, and we have some outreach ideas here. This one we had a discussion. We threw in some ideas, but I was trying to get our, you know, the property owners to really say, like, tell me if this all seems not doable or ridiculous, like tell us, because we don't want to put things in here that no one would consider. And then of course, monitoring and tracking your program. So reporting results, you know, maintaining everything, and then just some checklists. So just sort of, you know, is it convenient? Is your signage visible and understandable? A little checklist to make sure you're on the right track. And then we have some frequently asked questions here. So I wasn't going to read everything through. This is the first draft. And we will hopefully get some feedback. Our last meeting, I had emailed this, and at our last meeting, Caroline and JD were the only ones there. So so although we had good discussion, we really want to get some more feedback. Is there anything on here that you want me to scroll to or questions?
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have anything approximating a participation rate above 0 for owners of multifamily properties?
Participation in recycling?
Yes, I'm sorry, yes, recycling.
I don't know. I don't think I have any numbers. I don't know if that's something JD knows. As far as, sorry, my cat's scratching on my chair. As far as the, you know, we have 2 members of that committee that do recycle. But as far as their whole association, I don't really know. We did do a survey. And Pete, I actually couldn't recall if they ever sent us the results of that, because although I helped with the wording, I didn't have access to the results.
I did not see it, but you know, to be able to do that is going to be difficult because while the apartment association represents a lot of apartment complexes and owners, it doesn't represent them all. And we would need to really kind of look at, all right, how many owners are actually have it at their facility versus potentially how many occupants are actually recycling, not maybe not at their facility at on site, but by going to a recycling center. So I think that, and I was thinking about that, Pat, at the same time, how can we do that? I think I would love to have it as a starting baseline metric so that we can gauge our success through this thing. And, I don't know how we do that yet. Definitely open to ideas on how we can do that.
Yeah, I agree with you completely, Pete. I think that we'll get to that during this process with the Green Committee. And Karen, I think that's a really good start on the summary. And the Apartment Association is a very tight-knit group. And the more we work with this committee to get information out to the membership, I think that we can start measuring that. And I think we'll capture, Pat, to your question, more information in the future than we have now because they don't know either. And those of us that are in the industry would know the ones that we handle, but we have no idea about other companies and other, recycling scenarios with percentages with other competitors. So I think we'll get a better handle. I'm going to say, when you look into the third, fourth quarter, maybe we'll have a lot more information and data than we have now. Don't you think, Pete and Karen?
I hope so. Yeah,
Yeah.
I do. And I'm
do.
thinking of different ways to measure it. So I'm sure that we'll come up with something that we can utilize. So
But one of the things they will have is they'll have 65,000 units that they represent. So at a date somewhere in the future tagged, if they have, pick a number, 10,000 of those units that are doing some form of recycling, we would at least know the percentage of those that are members of the Louisville Apartment Association.
Yeah.
So I think we're moving the right direction.
Yep.
And I sense real interest, like in this toolkit, Karen. I think we'll get a lot of legs with that. If we can get information out to the membership, they'll be interested to try to execute against it.
I would want to add one thing. And one of the best things that we can do when we start to work with associations is get them educated to what is out there and what is happening now. So like a tour of a recycling facility, I think goes a long way toward dispelling many of the myths that they may have. And, it's the same myths that the general public has is, it's all going to the landfill anyway. Or that, hey, the contamination, if I have somebody put a diaper in my thing, which isn't good, but it doesn't ruin the whole program. And I think we've busted some of those myths. And I also think that we've won over a few people that were maybe not necessary. They didn't believe what was going on. So building a good relationship with this group, I think that we've gotten off to a great start. And I really appreciate working with them. So I think that they're honest and trying to get something off the ground.
Yeah, I wanted to show just a couple of pictures here. I put them on a slide so they came together. Caroline Schneider has been really fun to work with and really interesting to hear their, goods and bads of owning properties. But she decided it's small scale fourplex. She's put recycling in the basement where the laundry is. And so she had asked for some help with signage. And this is early on, she sent me this picture because she was excited. She got it all set up. And then a few days later, she emailed me the picture on the right saying, I got my first load of recycling. And in her case, she's just self-hauling to the drop-off. And which one? I forget which one, Bowman Field, maybe. But anyway, I wanted to just share that because, she's been real active in the committee. I think she's been at every meeting and I think we've definitely won her over on the recycling, and she's shared stories about how she's even done more at her own, house. So So anyway, I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, I think that we was looking for case studies
Mhm.
that we could use on our website and so on and so forth. Just so if a lot of people know her, which she's on the board, I'm sure a lot of people know her, they can see her feelings on it and where she was at. And maybe that pulls a few more people in.
Karen, where do you have your information for, I guess, your process to date information of what you've done with Mr. Carey and his associates with the apartment association? Is it on the website, the information?
The like this toolkit draft and
Like the draft toolkit, any bit of educational information that you're
yeah,
developing?
I mean, I haven't really shared anything publicly about this partnership and what we're working on. As far as, informationally, there might be some tips or something out there, but nothing has really been developed for a good multifamily focus. So that'll be kind of the goal here. But is that what you mean? Like, I haven't been sharing our progress or anything like that publicly, but I'm happy to share it in a way for you all as a committee.
I guess my thought was, as committee members, it would be nice to have every committee member informed on what you're doing, so that when we do meet, it's available to discuss. Because it looked like you put a lot of effort in what you presented to date. And, that's the first time I've really seen it. And I'm sure others as well. And so it'd be nice to have it ahead of time to where we could actually be more familiar with it.
Yep, you're right. I probably should have emailed that ahead of time. But I did not do that, and I can certainly email it out after. And these the Louisville Apartment Association has been great. I wouldn't consider the document that I've shared just now. I didn't get any feedback yet from the property owners, so maybe that's why I didn't even really consider it as something to completely share yet, because I know there's going to be some tweaks to it. But we will definitely keep you all updated on the progress of this. And today we really wanted to just share, so far so good. It seems to be successful. I know there was a little bit of resistance over confusion of how this would play out over time. And we've just been very clear that there's, nothing's being forced on anyone. We are just here to help, and we really want to provide the tools necessary just to make it better for anyone who wants to participate in recycling or even just better waste management at multifamily properties.
Okay, thank you.
Karen, anything that, and keep in mind, anything that we send out will definitely have to have draft on it. And
Absolutely.
also a version on it. So when you guys look at something, you print it off and we start to discuss it again. Let's make sure that we're talking version to version so that we can kind of keep down the confusion.
Yeah, lots of editing going on.
All right. Anything else on that subject, Karen?
I don't have anything else unless anyone has more questions.
Hearing none. Next item is public input. Does anyone in attendance wish to be heard by the committee? Okay, speak up. We appreciate your involvement and joining us tonight. Well, hearing none, guess the next announcements are the next 109 board meeting is Wednesday, January 25th, 5:30 to 7 p.m. We have no subcommittee meetings scheduled at this time. Our next advisory committee meeting will be Wednesday, February 15th at 4:30 to 6 p.m. Are we still planning on being doing this via video teleconference? Karen, Pete?
There's, Metro doesn't have any rules against meeting at this time. I think that we kind of leave it up to members here on whether or not that they want to continue virtually, or if they want to come in. Personally, I don't like the hybrid system because it's difficult for people to hear that's actually online. So if we do it, maybe we can get one in person, one virtually, but we'll leave that up to the committee and what y'all's feelings are on that. Sometimes it's tough to get around town driving. So what's everybody's thoughts on that?
Well, I think the only thing I would ask is the committee members consider that, and maybe at the next virtual meeting that we have, we can address that issue on whether we want in-person meetings or stay virtual. Because I think we'd be remiss to try to act tonight and say we're going to do in-person meetings without getting a little bit of feedback from all the committee members.
Would you like to just discuss it next time, Bruce, or would you like us to send out a survey or anything that would help get some feedback?
Well, personally, I tend to think we get more accomplished in a regular meeting scenario rather than a virtual meeting. I think it lends itself to discussion, debate, if you will, whatever, but it appears to me to be more productive. Now, trust in the fact that I'm 65 years old and not really a virtual kind of guy, but maybe others are. So it's going to be the pleasure of the committee on how we move forward. And I think that's something, if we can set it out, Karen, to do a survey of the committee members, that would be great.
Do that. It
Comments?
might streamline the conversation a little bit better.
Any other comments in that regard? Well, if you would send that out, Karen, I would appreciate it. So our next committee meeting will be virtual. It will be on February 15th at 4:30 to 6 p.m. Any other issues, subjects anyone wants to bring up? I appreciate everyone's attendance this evening, and hopefully you have a safe and enjoyable evening and a wonderful new year. I know we're looking forward to having a good year this year, and hope all of your families are well. And with that, thanks everyone, and I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn and also make a motion if anybody has any hints on fixing the camera, email me separate, but I make a motion to adjourn.
My hint would be to call a young person, and your motion, Greg, do I have a second? Second by Adam. Thank you, Adam. Everybody in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you all very much. Again, have a safe evening.
Thank
everybody.
you.
Thanks,
You too.
folks. See y'all. Happy New Year.
Yep. Have a good year.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye.